Здравейте в Матине! Както виждате, аз съм се настанила малко по-различно от обичайното, но това е защото ни предстои и много необичайна и специална среща. Отиваме до далечен Лос-Анджелис, за да си поговорим с легендарния китарист Стив Вай. Той ще ни разкаже за най-големите сцени, на които се е качвал, за любимата си китара Хидра и кога тя прилича на хиена. Гледайте, ще ви бъде много интересно! So, Mr. Vai, first I'd like to take you back to the 70s. Could you tell me what do you remember from the very first time you touched the guitar? What were your thoughts?
I can't believe I actually have a guitar in my hands. That was my thought. I wanted one. I wanted to play it since I was probably 7 or 8, but it just seemed too incredible. You know, the guitar was so interesting and beautiful to me, and I think I had some personal issues because I didn't feel good enough to even play it. You know, I didn't feel like I was worthy of owning or playing a guitar because it was so cool and I was just this little boy, you know. But then I heard Led Zeppelin and that changed it. You know, when I was like 12, and I just said, I'm playing it. I'm going to start playing the guitar. I don't know how, but I'm going to. And I had a friend who had a guitar, and he had it on the wall of his bedroom, and he never played it. It was a cheap little guitar. And I said to him, why don't you play that? You own a guitar. It's on your wall. I mean, I'm only coming over to your house to look at your guitar. You know? And he said, what, that? I'm not going to play it. You want it? I'll sell it to you for $5. And I was like,
$5?
Yeah, I was like, oh, I'm going to, I could, you mean, so I went and got $5 and I bought the guitar and I was just, holy mackerel, I own this. And that was it. I never put it down.
Have you ever wanted to become something else? Like, I don't know, an astronaut or an architect?
No.
It was always about the music.
Yeah. There was other things I was interested in, but they were just not.
You've had some legendary mentors like Joe Satriani or Frank Zappa. What were the most important lessons you took from them?
Many lessons. The most important one, Well, when I started taking lessons from Satriani when I was 12 years old, he was my teacher. I had other guitar teachers, but Joe was just the best. And he was my mentor and teacher for about 5 years, I think. And the thing that the greatest takeaway, and there was so many, every time Joe would touch the guitar, whatever came out sounded like music. It sounded like real music, you know, even if he was doing a finger exercise. Just there was a personality in every note. And that was so important to me because I was just hacking away at the strings, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I had an example right in front of me of what it meant to not just be able to play the guitar, but to play it and have it sound like music. You know, and with Frank Zappa, I mean, I could write a book, but the greatest takeaway from Frank was being in the environment of a person who was a completely free thinker. You know, Frank was constantly creative, and most people place limitations in their mind when they're creating. They go by what they've learned from the past. I know these chords work. I know that people like this kind of melody. All my friends are doing this, so I just need to be able to do that better. You know, that's what how most people approach what they're doing. They don't know it, but this is what's happening. And then there's those people who they just don't see the limitations. You know, there's whether they're engaging in a way to play the instrument, a new piece of technology, a way to construct an ensemble. You know, Frank was completely open. You know, and then he would just do it without making excuses. Most people make well, I can't do that because blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And Frank didn't do that. He was practical, of course. You have to be practical, but he never didn't do what his creative intentions were dictating. I mean, of course, I'm sure there's things he would have liked to have done that were outside of his budget or these kinds of things. But within his realm of working tools, he placed no limitations on himself, except for what his musicians can do.
I've heard a story that you first sent Frank Zappa your version of the song The Black Page. Were you nervous about his feedback?
No, because I knew I played it great.
Okay. Is mentorship important to you? I know you're supporting some young musicians like Polyphia or the Two Cellos, for example.
Well, mentorship happens automatically. Whenever you're doing something that's inspiring, you're mentoring others, you know, and you're always being mentored also. You know, if I watch Polyphia, that in a way it's a learning experience for me. You know, so there's a sort of mentorship there. If I'm talking with Polyphia and I'm explaining certain things about business practices in the music business that I know because I've been in it so long, and I'm talking to young musicians that haven't been in it so long, that's another form of mentorship. So we're all always mentoring each other. Not just me and Polyphia, but me and everybody.
Yeah, I get it. I'd like to talk to you about that very special guitar you have that you're bringing to Bulgaria, the Hydra. When and where and how was it made? And pardon me, but how the hell do you play it like that? Because it really sounds cosmic.
I play it like that very carefully. You could hurt yourself.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah. Well, I've always had a fascination for multi-neck guitars, ever since Jimmy Page. And I've built many different ones through the years. So the Hydra was a natural evolution. And it came about when the idea kind of came like that.
It clicked.
You know, and the idea, if I was to verbalize it, it would sound something like this. I want to create an instrument that can carry an entire piece of music. So I know it needs a bass neck, 7-string neck, 12-string, harp strings, guitar synthesizer, all of the technical elements of the Hydra. And I knew also at that time, the idea said to me, you're going to write a piece of music that's a good piece of music, or the best I could write. So it's got to have a great melody. And I saw myself playing it. I didn't know what I was going to play, but I knew that there was a way to create all of the instruments that accompany the song and a nice melody that flows seamlessly. It can't sound like it's being compromised by me doing all this other stuff. So each part needed to sound like a piece of music in itself. So there was just an idea and a vision at the time, and this was about 7 years ago. So I wrote down my thoughts on what I wanted in the Hydra, and I also sent them some ideas for steampunk fashion, because I like the way steampunk kind of looks, you know. Yeah. And they started sending me illustrations of what the Hydra could look like, and we worked on them and changed things, and then finally they built a prototype and they brought it to the house. I still have it. I call it the hyena
Why?
because it's really ugly.
Oh.
It's all chopped up. It's just like for me to kind of feel.
Yeah.
And then that give me an opportunity to say, well, this neck needs to move a little bit like this, and this one needs to go here, and the strings on the harp need to go here because they're getting in the way here. So it was a process of development. And then finally, once we came up with the final design, Ibanez made it, and it showed up at my house. And when I opened the case and looked at it, I was like, uh-oh. That thing is freaky and beautiful, and I'm scared to death. Because I knew I had to write something. It's like I spent years developing it, and here it was. Now I had to walk the walk.
Yeah.
So it sat on a stand in my studio for a year and a half.
That long?
Yeah, I passed it like 50 times a day, and every time I'd look at it, I go, oh, I got to write a song. And it would go, come on, Vi, I'm waiting for you.
Yeah.
So finally, when I was recording in Violet, I knew that the Hydra was destined to be on the record because it just showed up. So it was during the pandemic, I carved out 6 weeks, probably 15 hours a day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I first went up to the Hydra and I was like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do here. How can I don't have the dexterity or the independence and the time and, how am I going to do this? And that lasted about 3 seconds. And then another very familiar voice came in and it said, shut the fuck up and just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. You can do it. You already know that you can do it. So you have to have that. You have to have not a belief, a knowing. You have to know. And in my mind, of course I knew I could do it. I just had to do it. I just had to do it. So I just, started. The way that I performed it, to answer the last part of your question, is because when I watch the video, I'm like a lot of other people. I'm like, how the hell did that happen? What is that?
Yeah, exactly.
It's completely insane and impossible and otherworldly. And it's so elegant and transparent and flowing. And I look at it, I go, how did you do that? Because I don't even see me as the one that did it. And then I think, oh, I remember how I did it. I started really, really slow. And I went one note at a time, I just did this. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun, fring. Oh, okay, I could put that there, dun, dun, fring, dun, 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 dun. And then it's like, okay, where's the melody? So it's like, dun, da, da, do, da, do, da, da. And then you just work on it slowly, and you let your ear guide you and your imagination. And it's kind of like, do you know what a Rubik's Cube is?
Yeah.
It's like that. You sit there and you go,
So that you could put the pieces together.
Put the pieces together, and you don't give up.
So, do you believe that talent is the most important quality for one to become a truly great musician, or does hard work come first?
I think that your inspiration and your decision to execute your inspiration is the most important thing, because you can be very enthusiastic and compelled over an idea, but you may not have a lot of talent to play. You may have very little talent, but you may have an idea, an enthusiastic, inspired, exciting idea for a simple song that doesn't require you to have a lot of talent.
Yeah.
It requires you to have heart. It requires you to have vision. It requires you to have, most importantly, confidence, knowing, security in your own decisions. That's what's required. Because you can be a fantastic player and a really terrible musician. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand completely. I'd like to talk to you about your last album, Gash. Is it harder when you have to create music when there's a personal story involved and a truly sad one, moreover?
No, it's according to what the music is. If I wrote a whole album around Gash and how sad I was, then it would be difficult to play.
Yeah.
Because I would have to enter that mind, you know. But all the music I recorded with Gash is uplifting, it's empowering, it's feel good, it's feel strong music, you know.
Yeah.
It's alive, it's accessible, it's very alive. So I have to be that way when I play it. So I'm very happy about that. I don't know if I'm going to be playing any of that music, though. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not planning on it because who's going to sing it?
Yeah, I understand. You've been on one stage with almost every great musician there is, and it looks like you could go along with all of them. And we know sometimes musicians can be a little bit difficult. Could you say you're easygoing in that way?
Mm-hmm. I'm very easygoing. People enjoy me because I
That's
enjoy
true.
them. I enjoy them. Yeah, it's changed through the years. I mean, there was years where I would go into a musical environment and I'd feel self-conscious. I might feel I don't belong. I might feel these people don't really like me. You know, and I don't know if I could keep up, you know, and or I could feel these guys are below me, you know, I'm so much better than them, you know. And any way that you feel when you go into a situation, you can't hide it. You may think you're hiding it, but you're not. Your intentions, you have no private thoughts in reality. Everybody feels what each other is thinking. You may not know it, but you know what it's like. Somebody
Yeah, of
walks,
course.
you know. So that's a very intuitive perspective to be able to read people. You know, in order to do that, you have to eliminate all of your own beliefs and opinions, and then you get a clear kind of feeling. So that's changed for me. When I would go into environments, musical environments, and I had some kind of resistance in my mind, that's felt. And I miss out on having a real meaningful musical exchange.
Yeah.
But I learned this, and through the years, I've dropped a lot of that. You know, when I go into a musical situation now, I see everybody as my brother and my sister, you know, and I know that they're there for the same reason as I want to be there, to make music and to co-create and to communicate in that delicious, intimate space of sharing your musical ear. And I completely accept the other, regardless of where their skill is. They may be much better than me at something. I totally accept that. They may be at a lower level of technique or something, or maybe not such a developed ear. I totally accept that. I don't criticize it. I work with it. I work with it. Because remember what I said before, how somebody goes like this does not necessarily reflect their ability to communicate on a meaningful level. You know, that's what's most important. How do you communicate in meaningful ways with the other musicians, the audience, the notes, all of this is far beyond worrying about what they think about you.
Do you have a stage or a concert you'll never, ever, ever forget?
I remember a lot of them, but there's so many. Well, one in particular, I was playing with G3 and we were at the Beacon Theater in New York City. And it was sold out, huge audience.
Yeah.
And I finished my set, and the audience were very, very good to me. They were screaming. They stood up and they're screaming and they're clapping really loud, and I'm just like standing there looking out, going, "Oh my God!" And my mother was there.
Oh.
And as I'm standing there and this audience is screaming, my little old mom gets out of her seat and she's walking up the aisle to the front of the stage. And I'm just watching my mom, and she's just walking up to the front of the stage, and this entire audience is going mad, and they knew she was my mom. So for my mom, they were pouring it on even more. And after my mother and father supported me unconditionally through my life as a musician, as a young boy, taking me to lessons, paying for my lessons, standing up for me, completely allowing me to be a musician. A lot of parents don't like that, but my parents supported it. They encouraged me, and they continue to support it. And they made they made sacrifices. My father sold his life insurance policy to put me through music school.
Oh, wow.
So after all of that, here I am on this stage, and the audience is going crazy, and my little mom is just walking up to me, and she's standing at the front of the stage, and we're only like 3 feet apart, and she looks up at me, and I see her with this entire audience in back of her screaming, and she says to me, "Very good, Stephen."
So it's a great story indeed.
I came apart.
Yeah.
I can only imagine. So
I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, what do you think about the so-called rock influencers that are happening right now? Like, let's say, Charles Berthoud or Tim Henson or even Estepario Siberiano, for example.
Well, I think it's fantastic to be able to witness the evolution of the guitar, because I've been able to see it happen for 3 generations now.
Yeah.
You never think it's going to be happening when you're in it, but then eventually new things come along, and new technology, new ideas, and I've seen so many evolutions of guitar playing. When I see the players that you mention, it's an evolution in a particular direction, because the direction is going in all different directions. But I get such a kick out of seeing people raising the bar on the technical abilities of playing the guitar. It's fascinating.
Have you ever thought what it'd be like if social media was a thing back in the 90s, let's say? How different your life would have been?
Yeah, it's hard to know. But I might assume that I would still be interested in learning how to play, and still interested in playing, because that was always real to me. That was like a visceral, tactile, I'm hitting a note and I'm bending it, and I love that. Can't get that on the internet.
Yeah, it's true.
So the one of the things that the internet is most excellent at is allowing a forum for you to keep yourself distracted. It distracts you from fulfilling your goals. It can also help. It can also move you along much quicker. It's all based on where you choose to put your attention. So, like, for instance, the internet, when it came out, for me, was really helpful. I mean, it was fantastic, especially in the music business, because I was able to use like iTunes to sell music very easily, and everything was kind of streamlined. And I used the internet for research and things like that. But a person like myself, me, I was never really into politics. I never really understood politics. I didn't follow them. I didn't understand them. It seemed like a form of insanity to me.
Yeah.
So once the pandemic hit and I was trying to figure out what was going on, should I wear a mask, all this stuff, I went online and I was watching the White House briefings where they would talk about it. So this was my first kind of like look at any kind of politics. And I didn't know anything, so I felt I should know something. So I started watching politics. That was a distraction. That took time from me. That didn't teach me anything that I didn't already know, which is there's a lot of insanity in the world. It's really quite unreasonable, real deep unconsciousness. And it's all an aspect of fear. It's all fear. And of course, there's people trying to help and do the right thing, and sometimes they are very helpful. But for the most part, I realize it's quite insane. But it took a lot of my time. So in that case, the internet was a real distraction.
Yes, I understand. So you're coming to Bulgaria on the 25th of April. And I can't help myself but ask you, what do you think about the Bulgarian music? Do you know any Bulgarian artists?
Well, there was a time when I made a record called Alive in an Ultra World. And the idea for that record was to study cultural music from around the world and extract from it the kinds of modes they use, the kinds of time signatures, melodies, atmospheres, and then create a piece of music that sounded like the cultural music of that country, but with a rock and roll band. And one of my favorite studies was Bulgarian music.
Oh, really?
Yeah, traditional cultural classic Bulgarian music. Because, when people evolve in a completely different part of the planet without any connection really with the whole planet, there's something very unique about what they create. So it's so interesting when you hear the musical sensibilities of a traditional musician or traditional music. So, for instance, Bulgarian music, I studied a lot of, I can't remember a lot of it, but one of the ones that stuck me was Ivo Popasov and his Bulgarian wedding band.
Yeah.
And I started listening to this stuff and I was just fascinated. So I noticed that, they can play in very odd time signatures, 21/16 or 21/32 at breathtaking speeds. And there's phrasings that they do, right, that are unique, and also the scales they use. There's things about Bulgarian music, they'll go from major to minor.
Yes.
Like the same kind of melody, and so I found that fascinating, and just the phrasing, So I wrote a song based on those parameters. And that was incantation. So like there's a part that goes, it's all odd time signatures, and then it changes melodically, which is very reminiscent of traditional Bulgarian music. So I did do some good study, and it's some fantastic cultural music.
Well, Mr. Vai, thank you very, very much for your time. I'm sure we all can't wait to meet you here in April.
Well, I can't wait to be there. I love playing in Bulgaria. I'm sorry about last time. I was scheduled to play, and there was some conflict broke out, and I couldn't go, but I'm so excited to go this time. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm sure we'll have a hell of a time here.
I'm sure.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.